We're back this Saturday to cover the big four: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana, literally in backwards order here, but there is plenty to discuss, especially on the higher term timeframes. I want to continue with the very long-term analysis that we've been having for these for nearly a year now, which is actually kind of crazy. But for the first time during this whole time, things are starting to potentially change around here, although I suspect that the big move still is a little bit further away in terms of time. What I mean by that is, perhaps late, like very late within this month, maybe even early March, as things are starting to turn out right now. But before we get into that, I actually did just get a message here from the people at Bybit, who I'm partnered with, and they actually do have something pretty cool going on right now with the Bybit card, which is now available on Apple Pay. So you can literally just, pay from your phone, I guess, with your crypto, which is extremely convenient. I cannot, unfortunately, because being an American, I am banned from such activities, but they'll even, it's kind of crazy, but they'll even give some rewards for signing up right now. Spend 100 USD with the Bybit card and get 10 USDT bonus. Crazy, 10% back. Anyways, yeah, I think that's it for that. Enough shilling for one day, and let's get into some actual analysis right here. So let me just pop my notes back on up, and let's get into Solana first. So Solana coming off of a pretty nasty drawdown from last, what was this last? Yes, this was this past Monday, playing off the bottom side of its overall major weekly and even monthly range at this point, between about 180 to the downside versus 260, 265 to the upside. And as it stands right now, there are a few things that are very interesting about Solana in the short term, not the long term, but the short term here. Long term, like I said, I think that this is going to take a while to play out, but in the short term, on the daily time frame, we do see that BBWP, representing volatility, has hit an extreme here and is seeming to go back into a contraction phase. So assuming that this does play out, which, double extremes right here, boom, on the highs and then on the lows, very likely to get a bounce into this region. I'm not saying like I'm massively bullish on this asset or anything like that, but I do think that this one, with that double volatility extreme read and coming off of the bottom side of the range right here, is very likely in for a bounce in the not so distant future. I mean, this could very easily be this coming week. For right now, I would be looking at the daily stochastic oscillator momentum pivot to gauge when that bounce is likely to happen. As long as Solana is obviously below the pivot, which right now is about $200, I wouldn't be looking for the bounce until that essentially fulfills that pivot. So let's call it $200, or if it can trade, especially above Thursday's high, that'd probably be good enough for me to indicate that this thing is actually ready for a decent bounce. At that point, we can draw our fibs right here. In fact, I will do a reverse one for this one because it would be technically a bearish one. And let's plop it up right there. And that would give us a couple of areas of interest. The first one would be about 214. I do think that things would likely trade above there. I think that the 50% level at 227 to 228 very likely to get hit. Perhaps even if things get quite crazy, and maybe even if the long term, or I would actually expect that if the long term is bullish, we would be expecting a bounce to get up to actually all the way to the 618 at 240 before playing out a bit of a pullback. So, ideally for the BULAs, my wrong tool, my tools, ideally for the BULAs to keep the hopes alive in the long term, I'd really want to see a bounce somewhere in this next week, maybe 2 weeks, somewhere around this region right here. Again, waiting for this one to fulfill the momentum pivot before that bounce is really playable. And until then, does Solana hang out at the lows? Probably yes. But whenever I see a double BBWP extreme read like this, you're very likely due for a counter move. And so in this case, that, counter to the current daily trend would obviously be a bounce here. Anyways, yes, we've gone through that. Long term, to keep the BULAs hopes alive, monthly must absolutely close above, at minimum, that red 5 exponential moving average, which is basically at about $200. Here's the thing though, and this is what I was kind of alluding to at the beginning of this video. We are getting the first indication in nearly a year now, since we've been doing these long-term analysis, that major reversal is possible. And Well, while as of right now it's not confirmed, but it is possible if Solana can close a monthly, especially below January's low, which was 169, or, even if it closed below like 180, I would be quite concerned. We are going to see momentum very likely turn down this month, especially as long as it's below 227, although that was right around the bounce target, to be fair, on the daily. So perhaps that lines up with the daily bounce into the end of the month. Again, I'm speculating massively right here. So understand that this is an if and then statement. But if you do see it reclaim that region again before end of month and especially close above there, okay, hopes for the upside are still alive. But below, especially $200. I think that is very concerning for Solana. And shit, if it even just trades below about January's low, this thing's going to be headed back down to 140, 120-ish region. And I would essentially say that this thing is entering into a new cycle, meaning that, the bull cycle is done. If that were to happen again, big if and then statement. I know that some people are going to be very pissed off about that whenever you talk about bearish alts in the comments, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Look, we said it yesterday. Alts go to hell. Bitcoin sometimes goes to heaven, but Solana is indeed an altcoin at the end of the day. Anyways, let's move on now to XRP. XRP actually very similar to Solana, but I would say relative to Solana, it's in a slightly stronger position here. You can see that it's not necessarily on the exact lows, although it did certainly test those lows of this range that has been consistent since essentially the beginning of December. But right here on the daily time frame, very similar setup to Solana, but like I said, a little bit stronger. We do see double extremes on daily BBWP. I want to see this current one go into a bit of a contraction phase here, but I think it's very close to it, if not probably going to happen in the next 2-3 days, if I had to guess. That is going to be coupled with daily momentum, also suggesting a bit of a bounce off of this range low at as long as it does stay above about 242, which right now it's actually about a cent below. So perhaps that doesn't get met today, but sometime this week perhaps. But as long as XRP is below that momentum pivot, technically speaking, downside is more likely. And, does it come back down to like 220? Does it come all the way down to like, 210 or $2 even? I don't know. But, that wouldn't surprise. It wouldn't surprise me to see it all the way back down to like $2. Again, as long as it is below that pivot. So very, very important for it to reclaim it sooner rather than later in order to play out that double volatility extreme bounce that I absolutely love whenever I see. Anyways, weekly range is essentially the same, and I do want to state that on the weekly range, especially after looking at this one with fresh eyes this past week. This thing is very likely going to be range bound at minimum between about $2 to the downside again versus $3 to the upside. I think for a long time until we see this go for a decent reset on weekly volatility. This at minimum I'd want to see come back down below the 50 percentile level. Personally, it would be better if it comes down even lower than that, between about 15 to 20 percentile. But this can take a long time for this move to shake out. And again, for reference here, or just for reference, I guess, this thing went on a nearly 600% run unabated over the course of a couple months. I think that this one's going to spend a couple months, if not more, going sideways within that range. And that would be best case scenario really for Bulos. But here's the thing, higher term timeframes still remain, it's fine. I just really don't want to see it below this month's low. But I don't think that's, I think that even if it comes back down around $2, I don't think that it takes out this month's low. So, of course I can always be wrong in these things, but long term, it's always very difficult to trust XRP because it is just it used to be, except for like the last couple of months, a perennial loser where it would just have these pumps and then immediately fucking give them up. And so that's what I'm used to with this thing. So actually, I really want to put it past XRP to do such things. But yeah, if it does take out this month's lows, very easily come back down to $1, maybe even a little bit below $1. That would not be surprising at all, honestly. But for right now, momentum remains to the upside on the monthly, as long as the monthly is above $2. So that aligns very, very well with our daily and weekly range that we were speaking about. But of course, again, that's more of a long-term thing. We're not going to know until literally February 28th at the strike of midnight. Anyways, moving on from there, we have Ethereum. Ethereum isn't even worth talking about. It's by far the weakest, as always. That's nothing new. Just a sad state of affairs here for Ethereum, but similar to XRP, similar to Solana, I do think that this is an overall range play. I think it's just more annoying for the Ethereum bulls, because obviously this thing, contrary to everything else, has not made new highs this cycle thus yet. And right now, as I peruse through my notes, I don't have too much actually for Ethereum. I did want to talk about that same sort of daily extreme volatility signal right here. It's not the double extreme, to be fair, but as of right now, I mean, this thing is, I actually think that this thing is more likely to test the downside in the short term, perhaps putting another wick somewhere down around like 2400, 2450-ish region. That would not be surprising at all, to be honest. It's just fucking ugly, man. But again, if the rest of the market bounces, this thing will bounce as well. It's just perhaps not as much. Oh, fuck. We forgot to talk about XRP bounce targets if and when it does happen. So let's say it does happen from here. Just go back really quickly here. I suppose areas of interest, again, very likely to hit at least 265 on that bounce. Again, assuming that the bounce does get confirmed. 50% levels at 280 and 618 is at 290. So if you are bullish, you kind of want to see it bounce closer to those rather than the 382. Anyways, back to Ethereum right here. Yeah, this one I do think is still more likely to test the bottom side of the range again, perhaps sometime this month. Fucking nasty, man. But weekly momentum remains to the downside heavily, as long as it's below 3,500. 10-day time frame also showing heavy downside momentum as long as below 3,650. 5-day time frame also downside below 3,000. I mean, this thing just cannot catch a fucking break. Even the daily is about to hit. Or sorry, not hit, but it's about to turn back down, assuming that today closed below 2,700. It's a long day left to go, obviously, but hey, well, I guess less so because I'm here in Florida. So yeah, about 9.5 hours. But as it stands right now, it is healthily below 2,700. I mean, that's a decent move for Ethereum within that time frame, and it is even playing out a potential trendline rejection here from this regression that began that has been governing the high since early January. So yeah, if I'm just looking at Ethereum, I mean, I think that this thing spikes lower first and then maybe tries for a bounce. I don't think it's going to fully break down here, by the way, at least not on this move. Long term, looking at the monthly, what's absolutely critical for me to not turn bearish and say that, hey, this thing is done for the cycle or done for a very long time, is it must close this month above 2,900 minimum, about 2,900. We still got nearly 3 weeks left to go in this month, but yeah, that is well and far away from the current price. Anyways, a long time left to go on that one, so I wouldn't worry too much about it as of right now, but just something to be aware of in the background. And I expect that, if this one fails, then obviously you're going to see Solana and XRP fail as well. Anyways, moving on to Bitcoin here. We had a big focus on yesterday's video for the weekly close for CME. And what happened on the weekly close? We did see that it closed below the HPDR median. So I would not have the general disposition that the low for the current move is in just yet, similar to what we said yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, and also this several times this past week, that Bitcoin here probably more likely to fill a little bit lower first before it tries for a bounce. Obviously, yesterday's bounce attempt was rejected. But looking at this one, I still think Bitcoin, where's my damn thing? I still think Bitcoin could come back down, somewhere around about 9,300, or sorry, not 9,300, but 93,000 to 93,500, somewhere around this area right here, essentially, before it does play out a bit of a bounce. Looking at momentum also, just we see that daily time frame is going to be positioned, well, it's going to turn down because today is well below 98,300, but again, long day left to go, but if it does close below there, then, well, that's that. Very likely going to be on its way to, 93-ish before the next sort of bounce attempt. Again, as long as it is below the weekly median, it can easily fill out this space to the downside here. Even the bottom side of that 38.2 level right now is actually at $89,000. So, I mean, if Bitcoin came back down to like $89,000 or just anywhere below January's low, I mean, I think that would be like massively concerning as well for Bitcoin. But like I said, probably due for a bounce before that. Where do things start to change around for Bitcoin? I mean, just the simplest way of looking at this, again, is going to be the weekly median for the HPDR, which is at 99,000 basically. Technically a few bucks below there, but yeah, $99,000. So as long as Bitcoin's below there, hard to get excited for like an actual genuine bounce. And I still remain with my slightly lower target, somewhere around 93, as long as that prior information is met, I suppose. Anyways, that is where we'll end things for today. I want to say a massive thank you to all the people who we met at the theme parks. That was really cool. Also the comments yesterday. One for Elsa. She was very happy to see that people were wishing her a happy birthday. She had like the fucking best day of her life, pretty much, which is really cool to see. For me, Disney World is Disney World, but and also the shit comments yesterday. Yes, the shit comments indeed. In fact, a little bit more in American analysis for today. Elsa has been very enlightened and also surprised and shocked to see all of the drug advertisements on American regular TV. And not only, she's like, okay, is this drug that's supposed to solve some sort of very serious issue seems to cause significant more amounts of issues like bleeding from the anus and also yeast infections, which are great side effects to be having. Yes, Elsa thinks that's very funny. Yes, I'm sure yeast is funny. Have you heard of bread? That's how it's made, in fact. Anyways, and also she's very shocked to see because it's a Super Bowl coming up. It's like, why are you guys so fucking obsessed with this damn Super Bowl? And also, why are you guys so fucking obsessed in your news with celebrities? I cannot disagree here. I cannot disagree. Like, we watch the morning news and holy shit, no wonder most not most, but the people who watch regular TV are absolutely fucking redacted. They're being filled with poison to their minds every day. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. Watch YouTube. Watch me talk about dildos and fucking shits online. It's much better for your mental health. No, go watch like some fucking documentary or something like that. Anyways, that's what we'll end things for today. Elsa says to read Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Very, very good for your mindset as well. All right, that's where we're going to end things for today. That's enough talking shit. All jokes aside, Elsa absolutely loves America, and I'm actually having a pretty good time as well myself. So, yeah, we'll be back on tomorrow. We'll do the weekly Q&A session. And with that said, I'd like to wish you the best of the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.